Hello dear students. Today in this video we are going to learn about a new topic, active and passive voice. For that we first have to understand what is an active and what is a passive voice. So here in active voice, when the subject is the doer of an action, the verb is said to be in the active voice. So, children, here you have to keep it in mind that the sentence has two parts, the subject and the predicate. So, when we are talking about the subject, when the subject is the doer of an action, that means when the subject is performing an action, then the verb is said to be in the active voice, right? And in the passive voice, when the subject is the receiver of the action, so he's receiving an action done by the subject, right? So the verb is said to be in the passive voice. For example, the hunter killed the tiger. Here you can see that the hunter is the subject here and he's performing an action killed the tiger. Right. So here the subject is performing an action that is killing the tiger. So the verb is said to be in the active voice. Whereas in the second sentence, the tiger was killed by the hunter. Now here the subject is the tiger and he's receiving an action done by the object. Right. So here this is called the passive voice. So I hope this is clear to all of you that in the active voice, the subject is performing an action, and in the passive voice, the subject is receiving the action, right? Now, there are certain rules of conversion from active to passive voice. So, when we change a sentence from the active voice to a passive voice, we make a few changes that we have to keep it in mind. Like the object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. So you have to demarcate between the subject, the verb, and the object, and you have to keep it in mind that the object in the active voice will become the subject while changing the sentence into the passive voice. The next one is the verb changes into be plus past participle form of the verb. All right. So here we will always use be plus past participle form of the verb. That is the V3 form of the verb. Right. The meaning of the sentence does not change. In spite of changing the active voice to the passive voice, the meaning of the sentence remains the same, children. It will not change at all. The subject in the passive voice becomes by plus the doer of the action. So now here when we are saying about the subject in the passive voice, it becomes by plus the doer of an action. Like if you remember the example, the tiger was killed by the hunter. So we had added by and the doer of the action. That is, the tiger was killed by the hunter. Right? The tense does not change in the passive voice. So we have to keep it in mind that while changing the active voice into passive voice, we will not change the tense, children. If it is in the simple present tense, the same tense will remain in the passive voice as well. Now, here we can very well demarcate between the active voice and the passive voice. Now, in the active voice, it tells us what a person or thing does. The subject performs the action on the object. Whereas in the passive voice, it tells us what is done to someone or something. That means the subject is being acted upon. In the active voice, the sentence consists of the subject, the verb, and the object. Whereas in the passive voice, it consists of first the object, then the verb, and then the subject. For example, Anna painted the house. Now here children, you can see that Anna is the subject, painted is the verb, and the house is the object. And in the passive voice, the object we have to keep it in first. So the house, which was the object in the active voice, has become the object here, right? It has become the object. So first we'll place the object. The house was painted by Anna. And here the second thing to be kept in mind is painted is the past tense, and here also it remains the same as was painted by Anna. So the tense has not changed. The next example is the teacher always answers the students' questions. In the passive voice, it becomes the students' questions are answered by the teacher. Ali posted the video online. So in the passive voice, it is changed into the video was posted online by Ali. Now we have to keep it in mind that how the active voice is changed into the passive voice in the simple present tense. In the active voice, we use the first form of the verb. And in the passive voice, we will use is or are plus third form of the verb. For example, girl clicks selfie. Now here, clicks is the first form of the verb, children. And in the passive voice, we have changed into selfie is clicked by girl, right? So it has changed into, we have used is according to the selfie. Now this is an object, selfie is one, so we have used selfie is clicked by the girl. So here girls click selfie, so it will become as selfie is clicked by girls. When it is the girls click selfies, so it will become as selfies are clicked by girls. So here you have seen how we have used is and are plus the third form of the verb, because clicks is the first form of the verb and it has changed into clicked when we have changed into passive voice, whereas the tense remains the same, children. The next one is Mohan sings a song. A song is sung by Mohan. Sita reads a book. A book is read by Sita. He writes a letter. A letter is written by him. She plays cricket. Cricket is played by her. He sells books. Books are sold by him. So these are the few examples where we have changed the simple present tense sentences into the passive voice, keeping the rules in mind. Now we move on to the rules for the simple past tense. In the active voice, we use the second form of the verb, that is be-to form or the simple past tense. And while changing into the passive voice, we use was or were plus the third form of the verb. For example, girl clicked selfie. While changing into the passive voice, it becomes selfie was clicked by girl. Girls clicked selfie, so it will become selfie was clicked by girls. And in the third sentence, girls clicked selfies, so here it has become selfies were clicked by girls. So here children, you have seen that we have just added was and were to the third form of the verb while changing the active voice sentences into the passive voice. Now rules for simple future tense. In the active voice, we use will plus first form of the verb, whereas in the passive voice, we will use will be plus the third form of the verb. For example, girl will click selfie. So here you can see that will click is the simple future tense, whereas by changing into the passive voice, it has become selfie will be clicked by girl. Girls will click selfie, and here it has become selfie will be clicked by girls. The third sentence says girls will click selfies, and it has become selfies will be clicked by girls. So here you have seen that how we have used will be plus the third form of the verb in all the three sentences, and we have changed the active voice sentences into the passive voice. So I hope this topic is very well clear to all of you. It is not a difficult topic, children. So with just your little attention, you will be able to do all the exercises which are given in your workbook. And yes, keep revising the rules. Keep it in mind. What is the subject, the verb, and the object, and then change the sentences accordingly, keeping all the rules in mind. Thank you so much, students. Keep studying and keep working hard. Bye bye. Take care.